So walking Camino de Santiago 2013. So this was a trip that I took right after deciding to separate with my partner, and it was a really powerful time to really just completely simplify. I went on the Camino kind of as like a power move for myself, in terms of I knew that what I needed most was rhythm, and to be in my body, and just the rhythm of walking, and the rhythm that is kind of imposed on you in a way of you need to leave the hostels every morning at a certain time, and everyone kind of shuts down at night at a certain time as well. So I just knew I needed to be in my body, and and I was just really drawn in many ways to go to the Camino. So there's lots of signs kind of pointing that this was something that I needed, including just being able to basically book my flight 4 days before, and then go on the Thursday, and yeah, and going with air miles. So it was just, everything was just, it was really one of those feelings of it's meant to be. So I called it walking, in a way, a bit of a play on words for walking home, which is what the journey was for me. So wherever we find ourselves is home, but how many of us lose ourselves even to our own physical form, living in past and future with just glimpses of this present moment, a divine soul in this physical body on this sacred ground. Some places in the world especially love to feel our feet. Some places for hundreds of years have carried intention, hope, gratitude, surrender. It's an invitation to join in whatever way you're drawn on this journey for peace, for love, for Om. Buen Camino. So if you've been on the Camino, you'll know that this is how you greet everyone. And Camino is just the word for way, or the path, the journey. Buen Camino is kind of it's just such a warm greeting of not just, I hope you have a good walk, but I hope that this time that you've taken for yourself is nourishing, and and that it really feeds you. So one day I was playing with, there's such beautiful flowers there, and I made this flower arrangement. Flecha amarillo, light-heartedly leading me to this moment. Om. So flecha amarillo, that's the Spanish way that you say the yellow arrows. So that's how you're led during the Camino. So I started closer to the beginning of it, not in France, but basically closer to Pamplona. And the further you are away from Santiago, the less busy it is, also the less expensive it is, and it can be a little bit trickier to find these yellow arrows, but in general it's pretty easy. But I know that as you get closer, it's even easier. I basically went as far as Ponteferrada, and then took a bus to the end just to give thanks at the cathedral. So walking Om. Love this quote by Orion Mountain Dreamer. Take me to the places on the earth that teach you how to dance, the places where you can risk letting the world break your heart, and I will take you to the places where the earth beneath my feet and the stars overhead make my heart whole again and again. So this is just walking down one of the paths, one foot then another, is all it seems to take to move things forward. Wow, the truth of this really is hitting me. Years after doing this trail, the wisdom of that. When I was doing this Camino, I was in a very dark depression with lots of anxiety and not sleeping. And it really was this practice in fully being in the present moment. It was the only way to, not feel like I was going crazy. So just one foot in front of the other. When I started the path, I really could only think of doing the next step, because I didn't actually, I hadn't prepared. I had just bought my ticket 4 days before because of this really intense urge and calling from the Camino to come walk. So I hadn't had any preparation. I was going to this place where you're sleeping with a whole bunch of people in the same room, people snoring, everything, right? So it really was an act of faith and an act of trust. And yeah, one step at a time. His every step brings me more into my own. Feet, heart, breath, vida. This is Tao, and I met him along the way. Now it was interesting because just before I left, I was trying to think about, I was doing the Course of Miracles, and I was trying to decide, should I bring the book along? What should I bring to support myself? And a friend of mine said, Monica, just go, don't bring anything. You'll probably end up meeting, this meditation teacher on the way, or a Qigong master. She just kind of threw that out there. And anyways, I'm walking along one day, and I was sitting there just writing poetry, sitting on the side, looking at some beautiful flowers. And all of a sudden I hear this, someone chanting, Om Mani Padme Om, and it was Tao, and he had his mala beads and was chanting. And as soon as I saw him, I thought, I just knew that this was someone that I was going to spend a bit more time with. And yeah, so I didn't walk with him there, but when we got to the next place we were, there was no room, and it was me and him walking. And anyway, I ended up spending a fair bit of time with him and learning so much. He was just the epitome of going with the flow and just being so easeful in his body and his way. He had the worst backpack of anyone. He had one of those really old metal ones, and he had just regular shoes, not even great shoes. Yet he had no blisters, whereas a lot of the people on the Camino were having stuff with their feet going on for sure. He had nothing, and I remember talking to him once, and he just said, I think it's because I'm really in my feet when I'm walking, that I'm not getting any blisters or any pings or anything, because I'm really aware. Anyway, I had to agree with him, because just the way watching him walk was just so mindful and easeful and graceful and beautiful. One day we were sitting down and having something to drink at a little cafe in one of the little towns we're passing, and he had some goji berries. He had a bunch of goji berries, kind of like raisins, and we're both eating some. But what I was surprised about was that it was almost like the way I was eating them compared to him was a lot different. Let's just say that he was really savoring it, and when he taught me sort of how he was eating, which was, really just the very mindful eating. And what he said was that his thought was that the story of Jesus and the loaves of bread and the fish, actually partly what was going on there was that they were so in the moment eating, and in that way just a little bit was making these people really satisfied. So when I was eating these goji berries, like he was, just really taking my time and enjoying each one, I was full after 6 or 7, whereas before I was just eating handfuls, and not at all. So I loved that. I loved his little perspective on the loaves and fish story. And so you probably noticed that I've got some haikus. Haikus were one of the ways that I could really come into the moment in my heart, because I found that through poetry and through the haikus, just the rhythm of this particular structure of poetry, just how short and simple it is, I was able to, in my writing and in my thinking, drop into a softer, more unguarded, more open place in myself with the poems. These are some of the poems that I wrote, and even to this day, when I'm walking and say I'm having a hard day or hard moment, doing this, what I call the happy moment of the heart, just coming up with a spontaneous, like in the moment haiku, is one of my practices of connection. Oh my goodness. This was the other gentleman that I met. Now, he was Italian, and he couldn't speak a lot of English, but we spoke a lot between my Spanish and the English he did know. We just, you just get by, but we had quite conversations, considering neither of us really spoke each other's language, but we made it happen. And he was just so expressive, and I've got here La Pura Vida. Well, piano piano is like slowly, slowly, and La Pura Vida is just really like, he was so appreciating the good things in life. So the way he talked about, the food that he made at home, and the way he described things, he was just so full of this vibrant life. And yeah, it was really fun. I remember we were walking, and he was listening, walking through this beautiful fields. It's called the Meseta portion of the Camino, and it's just real beautiful, expansive fields, and he was listening to something on his on his headphones as he was walking, and he gave it for me to listen to. It was Eric Clapton. I forget what song, but wow, like I just got a glimpse of his world, just so rich in music and like just like love of life. And oh, in this picture he's basically saying, we number one, Italia number uno. um, oh gosh, Edita, this was a soul friend that I met, laughing till crying, walking, eating, sleeping, magic in the ing. Just being on this path with this kindred soul friend that I met was very magical and so simple. But I remember so much of those days with her, and I realized that I was present for all those moments with her. We had a wonderful time. We would walk, and there was one day we basically created haikus on the spot. We talked in haikus. It was for the afternoon. And oh, it was absolutely wonderful. Here we're walking along and we found a whole bunch of cherry trees. So we're up there enjoying ourselves. Yeah, they were all perfectly ripe. Oh, such a treat. Mm-hmm. So on the Camino, that is the feeling that I had. I just felt held. Of course, we're always held. But that was me coming back to that felt feeling. And the beauty, right? When you're walking in that beauty and things you haven't seen before, you really come into your beginner's mind and your heart connection to life. Lots of poppies. I went in May, June. It's a haiku. Well, it's more than a haiku. This is a little poem. Breathing in green, breathing out white. The camera doesn't capture the hues of green that bless my eyes and heal my heart and soul. For those of you who know about the chakra system, green is the color of the heart chakra. And wow, what a feast for my physical eyes and also the eyes of my heart to be immersed in all these different shades of green. Fields of forgiveness. While I was walking, we have time to think and to feel, and lots of time, and really just realizing how much I was wanting to let go, and just really being aware of resentments that I hadn't completed or let go or haven't forgiven. So just walking, it's like as you're walking, you can just so physically feel the opening of the heart and forgiveness just happening. The colors of the fields, wow, reds, yellows, purples, and greens. Opened by beauty am I. Just the power of nature to heal, to open us, to bring us into the moment in our heart. Yeah, so there's lots of vineyards that you go through in the beginning, beautiful. This was one of Adita's poems that day. The hills are silent. I do not want to talk to them. I only want to listen. I just can remember her sharing, the poem, and then myself sharing, and just feeling like I just ate something really delicious, and just bliss from these heart conversations through poetry. Hope. I always loved that image of plants growing out of rocks, finding their way. Celebration. The photos really don't capture how absolutely gorgeous and truly what a celebration of color and how joyful these flowers looked. Yellow as the sun in a children's picture book, sharing light with us. I love dandelions, and when you see them for the first time, I find, well, for me, when you see them for the first time after you haven't for a whole season, they're just gorgeous. Just passing lots of rivers. This was a really big old tree. These trees watch over us, true angels holding space for love, a steadfast embrace. On my journey of healing, leaning up against a tree at some points in my healing was really the only place where I could really feel some peace and solace. Truly this steadfast embrace. Reverence. Just in awe of the sacredness of this beauty. Beautiful red poppies coming out of the brown earth. The beautiful light streaming in. Flitter, flitter, butterfly. The breath of life carries you from one open heart to another. I couldn't get a picture of this butterfly, but just before I left for my trip, someone gave me actually this card. And it was so crazy. On the card, there were red poppies and white butterflies. And those were the two things that I saw quite a lot of on the trip that really touched me. And then when I came back and I saw the card, because I hadn't really noticed that in the same way, that when I came back and saw that card, I just thought, oh my goodness, that's amazing. So she gave me that card as a send-off, to wish me well on the Camino, and wow, was that ever part of my whole experience. So the white butterflies, when I found myself kind of going into story in my head, and so often I would see this white butterfly come and flitter by, and it really brought me back into the moment into my heart. And just, I love that, putting that heart rock. It just shows you all the bunk beds, a lot of people in one big room. Again, as you get closer to Santiago de Compostela, it gets more and more crowded, but it's nice. Okay, Grace, this was good. This was a really long stretch. I was anticipating it with a bit of, I guess, trepidation, because everyone talked about how this is a super long stretch. I think it was over 30 kilometers where there'd be nothing you could get to eat or drink. And it was so funny. I was sitting there partway through, and there was this German fellow, and obviously you can see it says helados, and you see the ice cream. We're sitting there, and all of a sudden you hear the ice cream truck, the ringing the bell, whatever it was, and it parks right by us. It was just the two of us, and we just looked at each other so shocked, because it was just so ironic that this place where we're expecting to be so deprived, kind of, and having to really, make sure we brought enough to eat and bare bones food. Well, this ice cream truck came, and he would not let me, this German fellow, he would not let me pay. We were so excited and happy. Like, it just seemed like we could not believe this was happening. It was great. And actually, as we went further along on that road, I had to go to the bathroom at one point, so I went to go pee in kind of the fields. And it wasn't actually fields, there was peas. So there was so many fields of ripe green peas. So again, it was funny because along that stretch, there was so much abundance around us, and yet the perception that I came into and was walking with was one more of scarcity, and so not the case. Such a big sky, and coming from the valley, so in the Bow Valley, I live in a bowl, There's mountains all around me. I hardly ever see the horizon or a big sky like I did here. Disfrutar. That just is the Spanish for just really enjoying yourself. Sunshine and shadows. So this is Adita and myself. Yep, so sometimes we be walking the opposite way of these guys. Yeah, the towns that we go through are really beautiful. I remember by this particular bridge, I'm just remembering how there was a woman there who she asked me to bring some prayers to the cathedral, to the end, to St. James or Santiago de Compostela. And I was so surprised. So she's spent her whole life living on this Camino, but because of her life circumstances, and now I think it was her health, she can't walk the Camino. And you could tell she so wanted to. She was so grateful to me for taking this prayer for her. And yeah, that's one thing. When you're on the Camino, everybody, is wishing you buen camino, and people are so rooting for you. They are just so happy for you, and they're praying for you all along the way. Definitely in the different monasteries and churches, all the prayers are for the pilgrims, peregrinos. But also, it seemed to me that, the people in the villages as well. There's a real feeling of warmth that I experienced. That was a really neat tree. This is, I think, in Burgos. Some pretty beautiful cities that you end up going through. So sometimes you stay in old churches or monasteries, and you'll be woken up by, them singing the chants. Here are the poppies, there the butterflies, both being danced by the breath of the divine, dance to the rhythm of the great stillness. Just remember seeing the wind on these fields, and it just looking like someone's big hand was just coming and caressing it. Oh yeah, some of the cathedrals are really fantastic, and I can't imagine how they were built. In particular, the Rosettas, these circular windows with often, some sacred geometry, it seemed to me, really attracted me, really loved something about these openings, and that I found really beautiful. Mandalas. There's artist Malcolm Glover that I have always really liked. He's out of Calgary, Alberta. He painted this. It's called Freeing the Light. It's beautiful. It was a postcard that I had gotten a couple of years beforehand. One of those ones that I just never got sick of. It's about the journey, not the destination. When we arrive, we begin again. Yeah, so those are the photos that I had on this slideshow. Such a beautiful opportunity to simplify, to go inward, but in the feeling of community and connectedness. always ending with Om. Om Shanti Om. Peace, love, and joy to all. If you ever get a chance to go on the Camino or find another place to just walk and come in the rhythm of your own walking with just a backpack on your back, it can definitely be the remedy for times when you feel disconnected and want to come back home to yourself.